Hey, what is going on, guys? Everzet Stealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the top lane tier list for patch 8.19. Now, before we get started, this video is going to be sponsored by U.GG. If you guys have yet to hear of them, they're a relatively new stat site that is going to provide you with a ton of different information to help you improve your game. So one of the many features the site has is the ability for you to look up a certain champion and come up with the best runes and build paths for that champion in a matter of seconds. So for example here, if we go ahead and take a look at Echo, we can just type in Echo there and it's going to come up very quickly with the recommended rune page, the recommended ability maxing, summoner spells, build paths, and this can help you out a lot if you're trying to learn a new champion or you just don't know what you should be building and what setup you should be taking on a certain champion. There's also a ton of different filters that you can tinker around with here. For example, what I like to do a lot of the time is I like to change this filter from Plat Plus to Challenger or Masters, because what Challenger and Master players are using is usually going to be different than what Platinum and above players are using. So this can help you get a good idea of what the best Echo players or the best players for the champion you're looking for are using right now. You can also take a look at what pros are building on the champion, counter matchups. You can take a look at the specific, more detailed runes. You can take a look at rune sets. There's so many things the site has to offer, guys. So there is gonna be a link down in the description below. I would definitely recommend it that you guys do take a look at it. So if we get into the tier list now for this patch, to start it off in the S tier is going to be Urgot. So Urgot's a champion that just has kind of come out of nowhere over the past few patches. He hasn't received any sort of buffs or direct changes that would make him an S tier pick now. It's more so that people are just realizing that Urgot top lane is a pick that doesn't really have any bad matchups, so he's a really good blind pick top laner. You're never really going to lose lane on Urgot. He's going to do well in most matchups up there. He's going to be a very tanky champion come the mid game, and he's still going to be able to provide a ton of damage for his team. So he's overall just a very consistent top lane pick right now for solo queue. With the spellbook page as well that you take on Urgot, he's just very hard to kill in the laning phase, especially once he does get the ability to use another summoner spell there. He's going to be taking the inspiration tree, so he's going to have the Time Warp Tonic, he's going to have the Biscuit Delivery if he wants to, and with the corrupting potion, his laning phase is just going to be very strong, and it's going to be very hard to actually do anything against Urgot in lane due to the fact that he does have really good sustain. So second in the S tier for this patch is going to be your best tank for 8.19, and it's Sion. So a few patches back, Sion got a buff to his W, which increased the amount of HP that he gets from killing minions, and this kind of tipped him over the top to being one of the best tank top laners, or the best tank top laner for 8.19. He's overall just a very strong tank top for solo queue because he's got almost everything that you would want in a tank top lane champion. He's got good CC, he's got a very strong laning phase, he scales very well into the mid to late game. So if you are looking for just a consistent tank top laner for this patch, then I'd definitely pick up Sion. Like Urgot, he can also do very well with the sustain setup. He's going to take the inspiration tree there with the glacial augment, and he is going to have access to that biscuit delivery and the time warp tonic. So similar to Urgot, he just has a great laning phase. He's very hard to bully out during the laning phase, and he's going to scale super well into the mid to late game. So he honestly doesn't have a ton of weaknesses to his game right now. Next up here is going to be Jax, and Jax is going to be S tier for 2 patches in a row now. Jax is just overall doing super good against a lot of the other most picked bruiser top laners. He's doing great into things like the Aurelia, Camille, Gnar, Aatrox. He's even doing pretty well into Darius right now, so Jax does have some pretty favorable matchups against a lot of the most picked top laners for 8.19. The setup that he's running right now also does give him a much better early laning phase. Jax's early lane is not his strong point. His mid game is where he really starts to come online. So by taking the Time Warp Tonic there and taking the corrupting potion, it allows Jax to have a little bit of an easier laning phase, get past his weaker point, and then get to his Trinity Force and start being a really good threat in the side lane. So making her way up into my S tier for this patch is going to be Poppy. Now, Poppy herself has not gotten buffed over the past few patches, and she hasn't really gotten directly stronger. The reason to why I think she's a very good pick right now is because she does great into a lot of the most picked top laners for this patch. Right now you have Jax being the most picked top laner, and Poppy can do great into him. You also have Aurelia, Riven, Renekton, Fiora, Aatrox. These top lane picks that do have gap closers do have abilities that they need to use to jump onto you to do their damage and to get their combos off. Poppy can do great into because of her W. If you can use your W at the correct time in the laning phase, it's very hard for those picks to really do anything against Poppy, and she can do a great job at even bullying some of those matchups herself. Poppy is similar to Sion in the sense that her laning phase is actually quite good. She doesn't really have a ton of weaknesses to her game right now. She scales super well into the mid to late game, and she's just overall gonna be one of your most consistent tankier top lane picks that you can play for 8.19. And then last but definitely not least, to round out the S tier for this patch is going to be your best bruiser top laner for 8.19, Darius. So Darius did get buffs in this patch. The reason to why he got buffs are probably due to the fact that Worlds is coming up here and it is going to be played on this patch, and they do want Darius to be a contested pick against some of these tank top lane champions. But for solo queue, this pick is going to be very strong here in 8.19. Darius was already an S tier pick, at least in my opinion, in previous patches for solo queue, so he becomes like an S plus top laner in this patch now. He's going to be a great pick in this patch, and if you're just looking for a hard carry top lane champion, then I would be picking up Darius. So for tier 2 or A tier in this patch, we've got a lot of really strong champions for this patch. I did move Camille and Kled down from S tier into A tier for this patch. I just think that right now, if you're wanting to play a good bruiser top lane pick, that Darius is just a level above those two champions for this patch, and then also Jax and Urgot are just very strong other bruiser options as well. But I do still think that Kled and Camille are really good picks for solo queue, but they are just slightly outclassed by those tier 1 bruisers. Now, Aurelia is a pick that could potentially be S tier for this patch, and some people would say that she's an S tier top laner for 8.19. I do think it ultimately just comes down to how good you are at Aurelia as to what tier the champion's gonna be in, because if you're a new Aurelia player, if you're just picking her up, then she's probably only gonna be about a B tier top laner for you. But if you can really play Aurelia well, if you put a ton of games into her, then she can definitely be one of the strongest top laners for this patch. And then two top laners that got buffed in this patch, Fiora and Jarvan, are going to be A tier for 8.19. Fiora, with her buffs, it does make her laning phase a little bit easier now, and it allows her to reach her mid to late game a little bit better in this patch. I do think she's a pretty good pick into some of the tankier top laners like the Sion right now. She can also do pretty good into Urgot. Once she does especially reach like 2 to 3 items, she can really start to take over that matchup. So if you can play a good Fiora, I do think she can be a successful top laner for this patch. And then for Jarvan, running the grasp on Jarvan in this patch and then just having your passive up a lot sooner is going to allow you to trade a lot nicer in the laning phase, and you're going to run into a lot more favorable trades with Jarvan in the laning phase. So I do think that he can also be a really nice top laner for 8.19. So for tier 3 or B tier for 8.19, this tier really hasn't changed a ton since the last time I made a top lane tier list. These champions here are going to be situationally decent picks, but overall the champions in tier 2 and in tier 1 are just going to be better versions of them. If you're looking for a good tank right now, you might as well play someone like Poppy or Sion. The Mundo and the Cho'Gath right now for solo queue just aren't really great carry top lane picks, and they do have a lot more counter matchups than something like the Poppy or the Sion. You also have some of these picks here that are just niche top lane picks like the Ryze and the Vladimir that situationally, or if you are good at these champions, you can have success on them, but a tier 2 or a tier 1 pick is going to be better most of the time. And then for tier 4 or C tier here to round out the video, these champions are pretty much the same since the last time I did a top lane tier list. Gnar has very weak matchups right now in the top lane. He does very poorly into a lot of the bruiser top laners, especially into things like the Jax and Aurelia, and those two picks right now are highly contested for 8.19. A lot of the other picks here, like the Ornn, the Gragas, the Shen, they're just not very good solo carry picks for solo queue, and they also just don't have very good matchups for 8.19. All of these champions here are going to get destroyed in a lot of matchups against the most picked top laners, so they're just not going to be very consistent picks that you can carry on for this patch. So that is going to be all for the top lane tier list for patch 8.19. If you guys did enjoy this video, then as always, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.